The most thrilling, spine-tingling series ever.
From the pages of R.L. Stine's best-selling books,
And the screams go on forever and ever.
We now return to Goosebumps.
Come see us at Curse City Con in San Antonio, Texas, September 27th and 28th. Buy your tickets at cursecitycon.com or click the link in the description. Greetings, Goosebumps fans, young and old, big and small, living dead and undead. Welcome back to the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. As always, I am your host, Isaiah Vargas. I'm joined by my good buddy, Nick Shaw. We are the Goosebumps Crew, and we're back to, as always, talk some Goosebumps. If this is your first time joining us here on the Goosebumps Crew Podcast, hi, hello, welcome, great to see you, and we're glad to have you, because if you are or have ever been a fan of the popular Goosebumps series of books, or the monster franchise that those books spawned, or if you're just wanting to get to know the series a little more, see what all the buzz is about, the bumps are about, then I have a feeling this podcasting will be right up your alley, because as I always say, me, Bjorn, and Nick are some of the biggest Goosebumps nerds on the entire planet, and we could talk about Goosebumps for hours on end, and that's exactly what we do here on this podcast. Every week we got a brand new episode talking about everything Goosebumps, whether it's the books, TV shows, movies, video games, merchandise, whatever it is, if it has Goosebumps in the name, we're going to talk about it so much that you at home are going to get Goosebumps by proxy. So, with all that said, if you end up liking today's episode, make sure you leave a like and comment. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that bell notification so when new episodes go up every Wednesday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, you'll get a nice little notification that says, hey, there's a new episode out, you better go watch it. But if you're just dying to get those episodes early, trust me, I know that feeling, then you are in luck, because you can catch the audio-only versions a day early over on our audio platforms. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, just to name a few. Wherever you get your podcasts, you'll find the Goosebumps Crew. And of course, you can follow the Goosebumps Crew over on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, just to name a few. You can also follow Bjorn and Nick at Goosebumps Aussie Fan and Shawn, respectively, on their social medias and their YouTubes. All those links are in the description below, so check them out. Join the Goosebumps Crew today. Become a crew member. We appreciate you in advance for your support, but podcasters beware, you're in for a scare. And also, don't forget, the Goosebumps Crew, as well as many other Goosebumps guests, are going to be at Curse City Con in San Antonio, Texas this September 27th, 28th. Make sure you go to www.cursecitycon.com or click the link in the description below to go get your tickets. Don't delay. Get them while you can, because they won't be around forever. You can come see us, the Goosebumps Crew, all together under one roof for the very first time. So here's your chance. Go check them out. Go to cursecitycon.com and get your tickets today, and you'll get some Goosebumps down in good old San Antonio, Texas. Alrighty, so here we are. We're back with another episode retrospective from the Goosebumps 90s show. I love doing these. We love talking about the Goosebumps TV show. We talk about it all the time. And, of course, we're taking a look at another episode. This time, we are taking a look at Monster Blood. This is the 15th episode of Season 2. It was aired on November 16th, 1996 on Fox Kids and here in the US and YTV in Canada. It was written by Rick Drew, directed by Timothy Bond, and it was based on the third book in the original Goosebumps series. And of course, as always, when we do these episode retrospectives, we can't do it without talking to somebody who was involved with the original episodes. So we're very happy to welcome onto the Goosebumps Crew. She played Sarabeth, the evil sorceress who created the monster blood in the episode. We are very happy to have Joy Tanner joining us here today. Joy, how are you doing?
I am so happy to be joining you today, and I also have my copy of Monster Blood, and wanted to share that with you as well. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you on here. And, as always, we were talking before the show, and, we were talking about the episode and the character in it. Even though Sarabeth in the show really only comes in at the end, that character still had such a huge impact on the Goosebumps community. As always, when we do our interviews, we go to you guys at home, our audience, on our social medias and our YouTube page, and just another reason for you guys to follow us over there. So whenever we do interviews, we like to ask you guys what you want to see from our interviews. And it was so funny because so many people got so excited for this one. So we have a feeling this one's going to make a big splash in the Goosebumps fan community. But we're very happy to have you here. And of course, we're here to talk about your role as Sarabeth in Monster Blood. And but before we get to that, though, we always like to ask, because, you know, actors are more than just one role. So I guess our first question is, how did your acting career begin? And are there any other notable roles that you've had over the years?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think a lot of people who end up in that arena do so out of a love for just acting. I was going to go into journalism initially, but I've been acting since I was very young. I ended up studying theater at the British American Drama Academy. I started off at Potsdam College. It's a SUNY college in New York, and ended up at BADA, and was like, wow, this is seminal. This is really what I want to do. I wanted to do theater. And of course, having parents who were practical thought that I was a little bonkers and did everything that they could to keep me from pursuing a professional career. But I persevered and studied with some really amazing people. I studied with Uta Hagen. I studied at Buff State with a gentleman who had won a Tony. His name was Warren Enters. He owned the Cherry Lane Theater. And then I came to Canada, which is a story in and of itself, and was going to do a play, and my agent at the time got my first on-camera audition. I got hired for one of the leads, and then it just kind of went from there. And have done predominantly television, a lot of television here, and film as well. And I still do theater, but my career is predominantly has been television. So a lot of people will know me from a series called Life with Derek. I played the mom. This is sort of the sweet spot for the people who are watching this podcast who grew up with Goosebumps, but you can look on my IMDb page, and I've just done a ton of work. So I've been very lucky and have enjoyed the work that I've done so far.
Absolutely. And that brings us to your role here in Goosebumps. Now, again, you played Sarabeth, who is the villain of the first Monster Blood book, and in turn, the first Monster Blood episode. Sort of like the ringmaster behind the scenes. The Monster Blood seems like this uncontrollable like blob that's just out to like devour anything in its path. But then you find out that she was the real culprit behind the whole thing. So when it came to doing this role, did you audition for it, or were you approached and asked to perform it?
So how it works mostly at this level is your agent submits you for these auditions, and you go. We do self-tapes now, but at the time you would go in front of the producers, the director, and the casting director, and auditioned, and I got hired that way.
Awesome. And were you familiar with the Goosebumps books or the series before getting involved with the show, or was it like a whole new experience?
Well, I knew that Scholastic always put out like different types of books to really get kids to read, to really stimulate their imaginations and to really support their literacy. So I was aware. I didn't read the books. I was a little bit older than that generation. I think I was in my early 20s, I think, when I shot it. So for me, it was just I love to act. It's for me, it's playtime. So that's what that was for me. So I knew that it had a significant following. I knew that it had it was targeted towards a certain demographic, which is probably why it has the feel. Well, obviously, it has the feel that it has. It's a little bit campy. But I knew that it was incredibly popular. So it was always something that, that my peers wanted to be a part of, because it had a certain amount of cachet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I know you're not familiar with the books, but you are familiar with horror, because I, like many probably did check out your IMDb to see some other projects. I mean, but from Prom Night, and going to, I believe it was the Last House on the Left with the remake, if I'm not mistaken, Jennifer Lawrence, that came out later. So do you seek out more specific genres? Because like with Goosebumps and Prom Night and things like that, kind of in the same horror genre, or do you prefer, like, say, a drama and stuff? Because I know with TV, there's not a lot of horror TV shows per se, unless you're on a specific streaming service now, with all the streaming services. But I mean, do you have one particular type that you like to play over others?
Well, it's an interesting question, and I think most actors we're gig workers basically. We go from contract to contract. I would love to say that I have the pick of what I would like to do, but when the material comes, and at this point, at this stage of my life, I've said no to certain things because it just doesn't align with. I'm either not interested in the project or it doesn't align with what I artistically where I am. But starting off, you say yes to pretty much everything, because you want to work. So you bring up Prom Night 4. That was actually my first on-camera audition, and I remember I did something really embarrassing, and I'm so horrified because it was thoughtless. I was auditioning for the 1950s flashback slasher character who gets slashed while making out in the car. And I remember sitting next to a really lovely Quebecois actress who was auditioning for the role that I ended up getting hired for. And I looked at the storyboards and I blurted out, this was so thoughtless, but I blurted out, I feel sorry for whoever gets hired for that role, which was just like probably threw her because there was so much gratuitous nudity. And anyway, so the producers kept calling me back to read. And I thought I was just like reading to help them find the other roles, but no one told me that I was chemistry reading for that character. And I said no when they offered it to me, like 5 times. And no one had ever said, no, thanks, I'm not going to do this. You've hired me for this. I'm doing a play. I'm totally cool. And they were stymied by this. It was just not something that people did. But also, I was not part of this is how you do things. I was kind of an outsider and didn't know what the rules were. Thankfully, they ended up getting a body double. I just want to let everyone know that that's not me. I think there's really great work in any genre, and if the character is interesting as an artist, if the character arcs are fascinating, if the dynamics between the different characters are interesting as an artist, you want to participate. And because it's so collaborative, that's also something that is significant in this world. So
when it came to getting the role in Goosebumps, was it a pretty open and shut case for getting the part, or was there some competition for the role?
Oh God, that's another funny question. I'm sure there was a ton of competition. The women who I came up with are so wildly talented, and many of them they're still working. I think that what ends up happening, this is why I liked auditioning in the room, because you could talk to the producers, you could talk to the directors, they could get to know who you are. It's a completely different situation. And we had community as well. Like, you knew who your competition is probably a rough word, but who the other actors were that you were going to audition with. I just had a lot of fun. Like, I mean, I look back at the episode and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so campy.
But that was always like the charm of it. It was like it was so like
I was gonna say it's more of a charm now, for
it
sure.
was so out of left field. It was like it was a completely like different version of reality because of the and that was just the way that kid shows were back in the 90s. It was very much like the campy
Oh
cheesy
yeah.
nature of everything like that, especially Goosebumps. It was all over that show.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know whether I answered your question.
Especially later stuff.
No.
But it's funny, yeah. They do keep it pretty campy, and other people we've had on here too, pretty much said the same thing. But I think it's to them. I think that's what they loved about it was it wasn't like too serious, and they
Well,
could
I'll
kind
never
of
forget what
play
Eugene
with the character a
Lipinski
little bit
said.
and do some things that like maybe left field compared to like other projects they've done because they have to stick to a certain like character trait for this, and you got to stay in the lane. Where
Well,
Goosebumps was just like, whatever, just do
I'll
it.
never forget what
We'll take
Eugene
what we
Lipinski
like.
said. He played Mr. Mortman in The Girl Cried Monster, and he said before that he was doing mostly pretty serious roles, and then he got to do
Mhm.
this with this monster with bug eyes, and he's eating crickets, and he's like, I don't think I've ever had so much fun with a role. So
Well,
it's
there's certainly a sense of theatricality that goes along with it, and you've been given sort of permission and license to go play. And I think that was one of the things that Tim, who was the director, Tim Bond, gave us that looseness. He was like, just see what you come up with. And you can see it even with, you look at Corinne Connolly, who played the aunt, and Catherine, like she's like this kooky, wonderful,
like she's
eccentric.
she's always kind of like has her hands up like this, and she's like, oh.
Yeah.
And there's
So
the
I
whole
mean,
scene where she's like pretending to conduct like the orchestra.
so there's a lot of freedom and a lot of fun, I think, and that's what people are reading in those episodes.
Well, that actually leads
It's
to my
wild, like
next.
watching those scenes. I think when I was a kid, I was just like, man, that's a weird old lady. But then, like, as I'm an adult watching it now, it's like, I think she just had arthritis the whole time. Like, yeah, it's like, oh my gosh. I was like, so
That was not where I
totally
thought you were
different
going with
things. Two
that.
totally different
Door.
things. Went from kid view to adult view. It's like, oh my goodness. So
Yeah, it's
Well,
true.
and that actually leads me to my one of my next questions is so Sarah Beth for the most of the episode is actually a cat.
Yeah.
It's the cat that comes out of the monster blood when they open it. Evan and Andy, the two main kids, they go into their Aunt Catherine's like forbidden room, and they find the jar of monster blood and they open it. They think it's a toy, and the cat actually comes out of it, and then the cat's just like watching them the whole time, like you don't even know like what's going on. And it's actually funny when I watch this with people who've never seen this episode because they're putting a lot of focus on that cat. And then later, when things start hitting the fan, and it's the monster was growing and growing and growing, it's getting bigger, and then all of a sudden the cat appears again, and then it transforms into a woman and is like, yes, it was I all along, basically. But it's so funny too because that character in the episode, even when she's human, is still like acting like a cat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's all of those
So,
things, right?
So I was curious, like, was that like your own
Yeah.
improvisation, or was that like a director's thing?
No, no. He said, go have some fun. And I'm like, okay, well, she's been in this like mason jar of green goo, and now she's transformed into a cat. But there's a twitchiness about her as well that I wanted to bring. And as well, like a felineness to her. I don't know whether it still reads, but that was what was in my in my actor head at the time. So that's what I was going for.
Exactly. Well, and especially like because there's the scene where Trigger, he eats some of the monster blood and he
Yeah.
grows super big. So you have this giant dog like reaching through the tiny door, and then you have Sarah Beth is like, kind of
Shoo,
like
shoo. Exactly.
It's so good. But again, those are the things that make that character memorable. Even though she doesn't have a ton of screen time, she makes that huge impact. And everybody I see
Give
the
me a
episode with.
scene. Give me a scene, Isaiah. I'll eat it up.
Well, yes. No,
I mean, it's what you gotta do. I mean, like,
it's what
think
you gotta
about some
do.
of the other characters in films who don't get a ton of screen time, but they are just like so stand out. You remember what they did, like whether that person chose to do that, so they really made what they like probably thought of at the time, like my 15 minutes of fame here. I'm gonna go all out for this, you know. And but you remember them forever, and it just like explodes, and then you see them in like everything coming out later. It's kind of wild, but and that's how memorable that character was for this episode.
And there's some
I
people who
mean,
are like,
hopefully she stayed in her, she didn't like, I didn't do it like to be like, oh, I'm going to stand out. It was, you've got license to play in these really weird sort of situation and just go have some, like, it's me having fun. You're really just watching me play.
yes.
well,
So-
and that's always the great thing is that when actors can have fun and it's not just like, we talk to people who are just like, look, it was just a paycheck, it was just like we just came on, we read the lines, and then we were done. But folks who can really like make with the time that they have and have the fun with that, by all means, that's what makes the job fun, I feel personally.
Yeah, and I'll also to sort of riff on that. I mean, as I had said before, we're contract workers, so we never know when our next job is going to be. So when we have the opportunity, it's like it's truly a privilege because there are so many actors who are so incredibly talented who don't have those opportunities for whatever luck, timing, whatever it happens to be. So I am always on every show that I go on, like I'm going to go have fun because I don't know if it's going to be the last time I have that opportunity. So even if it's a role that is, challenging, like emotionally challenging, like we're lucky to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you also never know when like
Yeah.
something's really going to take off in popularity. Like every person we've talked to regarding their roles on the Goosebumps show, they all say the same thing. It was like we had no idea like that this was going to take off, that this was going to be like a big deal come like 10, 20, 30 years later. And it's like you never know what's just going to like really, really catch on. And Goosebumps was one of those things.
It's interesting because I think for each generation, there are these sort of touchstones of cultural reference that at that particular generation that stick out. And again, I think part of it has to do with timing. There's so many things that have to come together. But the fact that this still has legs 30 years later, that, it was seminal for so many kids. Everyone loves, I mean, I'm not saying everyone, but I think most people love a good ghost story, right? And so this hit so many of the puzzle pieces. It just, it stands alone at a particular time. And the fact that you folks come together and get to talk about it keeps it going, keeps it alive. But it's also, there's this nostalgia isn't always a good thing, but in many cases, it's a really wonderful thing because these are seminal stories that helped sort of formulate, kids. Again, it goes back to literacy. Like that's really for me what the importance of what the Goosebumps series did. It was a visualization of the book itself. It got kids to read. It got kids' imaginations sparked. That's an amazing thing to be able to do that and to have people talk about not just the acting, but like we talked earlier about the music, the production, the special effects, the puppeteers, all of those components that really elevate something. Sorry, I've talked an awful lot.
No. Seriously,
Oh, like
you are absolutely correct in all that, and it really is because every single, and especially when it comes to doing an anthology, because every single episode is a new story, new actors, new locations, new everything. So you always have a show like this really will stick because every single episode's a new experience. There is fun in a show that has a continuing cast of characters, but there's also fun in like every new episode is a new story, and you never know what you're gonna get. And that's what Goosebumps was. And yeah, when it came to the show and the books, I know for me and Nick and Bjorn and tons of other Goosebumps fans, a lot of us are adults now, and we grew up with these when we were kids. And they formulated, as you say, they formulated a lot of our personalities. For some of us, they made us want to read and write our own scary stories. Or go into the horror medium. As I've met people who are like trying to make their own independent horror films, and they're like, I grew up with Goosebumps. I read those books growing up. So it casts a wide net, and it's still going on. There's still new books, there's still new shows, so new generations of kids, and because the old generation are adults, they get to pass that on to their kids, and it just continues to go on from there. So it's just one of those. It's one of those franchises that just gets really, really lucky. Like you said, it just hit a really good time in the 90s to really catch on.
Which, when you think about it, I mean, the 90s was a decade of just hit after hit after hit. So to have one like Goosebumps that stood out so like emphatically, and still to this day impacts people, and emphatically so, like 30 years later, is unprecedented for a lot of different things. I can even think of off the top of my head of things that I used to love as a kid, but they never had that, I guess, longevity like Goosebumps has.
You have to
it's
wonder, like,
very
what are
unique.
those components that actually, what are those threads? What's the foundation that gives that series the longevity, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it's
for the show. I think a lot of it is, when you start off with something as great as the Haunted Mask episode, and then you go into even more great episodes. But the thing is, you're watching episodes of things you've read. Like, most people read the books at that point, and they were so excited about a TV show. So when you get to the TV show and you're seeing these in person, now I will say, like, Billy and Dan, who wrote a lot of the screenplays for the episodes, did change things along the way, some for the better, in most cases a lot better. No offense to Sign, but sometimes that, like, we talked about on here before, where the books are limited to an extent. So we're to your part, in the background.
Oh my goodness.
I did not plan that out, by the way. That's purely coincidental.
I actually still have that dress, by the way.
Oh, you do?
I do. Yeah, I kept the wardrobe. I think that's. I will say that I think that a lot of why the character, particularly preteen boys, was the wardrobe. Quite frankly. But I kept them. I thought they were pretty wicked, and then the boots kind of disintegrated, sadly, and but I still have the pants and the dress somewhere.
Wasn't there? I think actually in this scene right here, the little flashback, I think she's wearing like a leather jacket, like it.
She was cool, man. There were like I'm gonna pull up the woman who did the costume designer was Joyce Shore. And I remember that was one of the things that I do remember was she was like, she is going to be freaking cool, this character. And it's the first thing that you see basically is a person's wardrobe, what they're wearing. It sets the stage. So I didn't have to do an awful lot. Like, you put the dress on, the dress does an awful lot on its own. You just, it's and shoes. That's another thing for actors. You have to, whatever shoes you're wearing, that changes how you walk. It changes the character. And she was wearing, like, I'm not joking. They were platforms. It was goth before goth was goth, and punk. There was all of these little elements that were so much fun and sort of kind of what's the word that I want? They were very unconventional.
For the time, I could definitely see that. I mean, it makes me think
but I can definitely see a lot of people
like the movie The Craft,
kind of fashion sense
and things like that, kind of giving that vibe. And I don't know if you ever saw that. Great movie though.
Yeah, you're right. The women wore, they were very similar. I mean, it was the war, and I've just interrupted you, Isaiah. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
It's part of that 90s, that sort of mid 90s wardrobe vibe. That's what was sort of. It was either really simple, like Calvin Klein stuff was very simple and unadorned, or it was this kind of the opposite. It was dark and it was sexy. I mean, you think about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That for me is also same time period. If you look at the wardrobe, there's that sort of edginess that you look at the wardrobe and you go, immediately 1990s, mid 1990s.
Definitely. Well, it's always interesting to see like what was in back in the day, and also like how some things come back. Some things come back in popularity. So, and I will say, because they get brought up, there have been people. I won't say who, but there have been people who
I want to know names. I want names.
No, that have said, they're like, oh yeah, I did have a crush on that character growing up. So hey, more power to them.
But you weren't wrong. It was the dress.
I'm not judging, but.
Am I blushing? I'm totally blushing right now. Oh, God. I'm not going to let my son see this. He's going to be like, oh my God, Mom.
That'd be hilarious. If you're a real Goosebumps fan, you know the best time to dive in is after dark, when it's quiet, eerie, and every creak in the house suddenly matters. G Fuel helps you stay in that zone. Clean energy, no crash, just enough boost to keep your head clear and your nerves steady through every creepy episode. Grab yours at gfuel.com or click the link in the description and use our promo code GBCREW at checkout to get 20% off your entire order. Perfect for late night fear sessions with the Goosebumps Crew. And thank you to G Fuel for sponsoring this episode. My next question is, so did you ever get a chance to read the Monster Blood book?
Well, I have the book.
That's half the battle.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I did a series also back in the 90s called Nancy Drew. I read all of the books. I played George. And I read all of the books, but it was after the fact. And so I did not read the book. And I have it here, and I'm like, it would be really interesting to go back and actually read to see how close I think Rick Drew was the screenwriter or the adapter, to see how close that the book is to the story itself. Mm-hmm. But I'm doing my PhD, so I'm reading a lot of stuff. Not quite on my reading this right now, but eventually I will read it. So
it's funny, you're reading like all these things for your, like for your PhD, and then all of a sudden it's just like, well, time to take a break. Let's read this Goosebumps book.
You know what? Maybe I'll come back and I'll read the book to you. I'll read
that would
the book
be awesome.
for you.
That would actually be kind of cool.
Who out there wants an audio version read by Sarabeth? That's what I'm talking about.
There you go.
Up.
Hey,
I'll even wear the dress. You won't see it, but I'll wear the dress. How's that?
Well, we'll film that too.
You'll have the
It'll be
vibe.
like Yeah, it'd be like by the fire, sitting in the chair. Today we're reading
Hey,
Monster Blood, kiddies.
hang on. We'll put the reading glasses on. And today's offer is, but she's weird, Evan protested. Sorry.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
If you guys at home
Sold.
want to see more of that, leave 5 million likes. There
You go.
Sold.
Yep. That would be really funny.
Sorry, this has totally gone off the rails, hasn't
Oh,
it?
no. Hey, look, if there's
Welcome
anything
to
that we do here on the
podcast. That's
Goosebumps
what we
Crew, it's
do.
that we go off the rails.
A lot.
We have no limits.
Well, he should have some.
Yeah, well, we have some, but we say that we have no limits.
Okay. All right.
It gets us some cool points.
There you go.
My next question is, so how long were you on set for? Were there any like fond memories working with the crew or anything?
So we used to do the turnaround on episodic television now is so fast. Like they get you in and out, you will shoot. We block shoot now. I can explain that at a later point, but I think I was there for 3 or 4 days, which was a lot for maybe 3 or 4 minutes of screen time. I remember being completely fascinated by the special effects department because they were working with flash pots, and we weren't supposed to get too close to them. But if you remember, I've got my little hex circle, and they had the flash pots surrounding the circle when in the flashback of my doing my witchcraft, and I was fascinated by that. I was also fascinated by the slime itself, and like those people are real artists, and they were really generous in a lot because most of the time they're like, stay out of our department, stay in your lane, and we're also mostly focusing on the work that we're supposed to do. But I'm always the actor who's like, oh, what's going on over here? And I'm the nosy one because I want to know how things are done, and I'm curious. But they were really generous. They were really generous in regards to allowing me to kind of poke around the studio. So
I'm curious, what was the monster blood like? Was it almost like
like
was it
green
like
slime.
really gooey? Was it very firm? Like
It's I know, what a question. It was green slime. So some of it was when you saw it coming out of Sarah Podemsky played what was her character's name?
So
The young girl.
Andy. Yep.
Andy, yeah. So it's coming out of like her out of the Coleman ice bucket, and it's and what the special effects people did was they watered it down so that it had that consistency. And I got to be really honest, like I really have no idea why I was making Monster Blood and why was Sarabeth making Monster Blood? I still am not really sure. Like, was I trying to make giant creatures? Like, I should have asked that question at the time.
I will say,
I guess
when
with
you
witchcraft,
get to reading
you just
the
want
book,
to create monsters to destroy stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say
Yes,
when you do eventually get to reading the book, this is our own opinion.
Okay.
The episode is actually not as convoluted as the books.
Okay.
The plan in the book is a little more head-scratchingly confusing.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Okay, so now I have to read it.
Yep.
I was going to read it anyway.
But
Read it sooner.
I will say that whole flashback scene was really well done. I love the lighting of it, and just the way that it's shot too, because it's done in that very 90s style, like slow-mo, and it's like very foggy. They might have put like Vaseline on the lens or something like that to give it a little more dreamlike aesthetic.
I don't think that they did the Vaseline thing. They would have used oh, this is embarrassing. Like material to put in front of the lights. All of the techie people are going, Joy, it's called this. Anyway,
I think it's called Frost. That's using my associates. That's using my school degree well.
I've never heard that term before, but I know there were smoke machines for sure. That whole space was not in, if I remember, I feel like it was in a separate set. Like there was the bedroom, but then I feel like we had a separate set because of the flash pots. It was very dark, and they used slow-mo, but the camera lenses were kind of right in your face, and it was to give that sort of distorted look. And a lot of it had to do with the editing as well.
Hmm. It was very well done because, with a flashback, it was really easy to tell like what was the flashback and what was actually like happening in the now. But it also just made the set for that scene look really, really cool because you do have like the flash pots, so you have like the boom, like the fire coming out. And it really made like a very eerie looking, scene. And it's a POV too, so it's a little more like you're looking through the eyes of Anne Catherine in that moment.
So I don't know whether your audience knows a POV is a point of view. It's a particular point of view. So that's what just
Mhm. Yeah. Yep.
people.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it was a really good choice, I would say.
I also think that I was trying to kill her.
Well, yeah, because it looks like you're almost like
Try to
you're
go
almost
after
like
her.
have your hands around her neck almost.
Yeah, which is, pretty gruesome for a child's show. Anyway, sorry.
Hey, this show gets pretty dark.
It was a different time. There were a few things that were questionable for shows back in the day, especially when you got past network and went to cable.
Yeah.
So
Um,
this being a network show, that's probably as far as they could go. We've talked about it before on here. There were even episodes of that show where people have died, but they just don't show it.
not
Yeah.
the actors,
They
the
imply it.
characters.
Yeah.
They imply it.
I did do an episode of The Crow. They did do a television series. I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I shot that out in Vancouver. Just a kind of an interesting sidebar.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I didn't even know The Crow did a series. Like I'm so used to the movies.
I think I've heard of
Um,
that there was a TV
like
show. I am more familiar with the movies though.
Yeah, it was good. They did a great job. I'm trying to think of the actor's name. Mark, oh God, what's Mark's last name?
I'm
He
gonna have
ended
to look.
up doing the American version of the Iron Chef, the host of the Iron Chef.
Mm.
If that gives
Oh,
anyone
okay.
a point of reference. Lovely, lovely man. And it was so much fun. Vancouver was doing a lot of work, what we call service work. So in Canada, you're because you're so close to Los Angeles, a lot of the series work was done. The American series work and film were done in Vancouver, as opposed to Toronto, which is where Goosebumps was filmed.
Hmm. Um,
It's funny, like as we talked to, like we said, many of the actors, directors, writers from the show, because it was so almost a smaller pool, is what Ron Oliver said of actors at the
Love
time.
Robin.
So he said it was such a smaller pool at the time, like because he had done Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps.
Yeah.
So he's like, sometimes I just bring that actor over to the other show, just because I already worked with this person, but at the same time, you're just looking at the same kids again or the same actors again because the pool wasn't as broad as it is now.
So
So
it's
when you were
certainly
talking
I
earlier about that meeting your competition, it's like, okay, you probably, on more than one occasion, have
oh
run across the same people
we knew
all the time.
exactly we knew exactly who was going to be at the auditions. We knew what talents they were like, what they were going to bring to the part. So for me, there are two things that this conversation brings to mind is that you're getting hired, not for your talent, but sort of this individual, whatever it is that you are, and the chemistry. If you're I teach, right? I also teach acting. So I always say to the students, if you're the right puzzle piece, you're going to get hired. And for me in the 90s, it was awesome because the talent pool was a lot smaller. It's way more difficult for an actor to get hired now. The good thing about it is that there's way more diversity. We still have a long way to go. However, more individuals who were not seen on screen at that time. You see a diversity of body shapes and types of people and just it's wonderful. And then you brought up Ron Oliver. I love Ron, by the way. If he sees this,
he's amazing.
I'd say hello to Ron. And he is. I've worked with him as well on a number of things. It was a small community, and that I think was the thing that I loved the most, was that it was such a community.
Mm-hmm. It almost felt like, again, we've talked to many people, actors and behind the scenes crew, and they say the same thing. It was like, it didn't feel like you were too far apart from anybody. It felt like everybody was kind of like, I guess in terms of like an extended family, I guess.
Yeah.
Because just everybody was like, everybody knew somebody and worked with them more than one time in one way or another. So, it probably was just an amazing like community of people to work alongside.
Yeah, I was lucky. I was very lucky.
Speaking of which, what was it like getting to work with the other stars of the episode, Kyle, Sarah, and Kareen?
Oh, they were just sweet. They were lovely. Kareen was around, like she was sort of a mainstay in the Toronto scene. And again, like Kyle and Sarah were just starting off in their career, right? So again, they're younger kids, but you want to try and create some kind of a camaraderie. So we would hang out and sit around and chat. Sarah comes from a very talented family. She's got her sister Tamara and Jennifer are amazing creators and actors as well. So I haven't kept in touch with any of these people. And I have to say, I don't even know whether Kareen is still around. But you just kind of like in between takes, you hang out and you talk and you go to the craft table and go, scrounge for whatever kind of food's there and try not to eat too much candy and drink too much coffee. And, again, it's a place that you kind of would hang out and try to get to know. But again, they were younger, right? So I don't remember what my 20-something self was thinking of, like how I connected with them. But I hope that I'd like to think that, it was. I remember talking with Kareen. And what's interesting is that I'm originally from Rochester, New York, and I moved to Canada. And Kareen was originally from a small town in upstate New York called Leroy. So for any of the people who are listening who are in New York, you'll kind of have an idea of where that is. So I think that we talked a little bit about how we both came to Canada and how our careers sort of expanded when we came here. So,
yeah,
which is really interesting because there's not a lot of people from that time that we've talked to that moved from the U.S. to Canada to, pursue the acting. Because again, the pool was smaller, which may have increased chances, but I mean, it's still possible not to get any acting job. But I mean, it's still very interesting because most of the people we talk to still live there. They have not moved out of Canada. There's only been like less than a handful, I think, of the ones we've talked to that moved from Canada. But it's because they absolutely love it there. And it's amazing to see like a lot of the filming locations are still there. Like, and when we hear about some of these places, it's like Castle Loma. That's one that was used for episodes.
I live up the street from Castle Loma. It's it's cool.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy because like
Terror Tower.
Looking at that, it's like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
They use that for Night in Terror Tower. Yeah. And it's amazing. So with that said, I mean, I know locations are there, but for yours episode and for what you did, most of that was probably on set, correct? Or was there actually like a Okay, so I was wondering
Yeah,
if it was actually like a location they went to.
yeah. So they would have had for the exterior shots, they would have had an exterior location, an actual home. I don't know where they like what area. What ends up happening is that there are location managers and people will put their properties into sort of a list, and the location managers will look at these lists of places around. Like there are sound stages. We've got amazing sound stages here in Toronto. But for the location shots, the property or the locations manager will look through like the list of locations and does this seem to fit? Will this be an appropriate, visual? Does it match what the production designer had in mind? For all of my stuff, it was all in the studio. I was not outside. So
Also, since Terror Tower got brought up, I do want to make a quick comment because you talked about the crafts table, and
Yeah.
it's funny because Corey Sevier, who was in Terror Tower, he was part of this like behind the scenes featurette, and they did a whole thing where they talked about the craft services, and you got to see like just the table of food, and I remember he had like a whole plate of just like food and like candy on there, so I'm just imagining like how awesome that was.
There's been a couple people that said that's like one of their favorite things about working on the show.
Getting all the free food.
Whatever. Like it's all
So
the free food,
embarrassing.
man. It's so good.
Embarrassing as an actor to say, yeah, why? What was the favorite part? Well, I was getting fed. It was the
I didn't have to pay for my own food.
Oh, man.
Honestly, though,
Hey, I tell you
I
what.
wouldn't complain about that either.
Sometimes if the food's that good, it's worth it. I was
Yeah.
just at a wedding recently for a friend on my birthday. I don't know why he said it on my birthday.
Or to
But
celebrate.
I was like, it's okay. I was just turning 40. It's not a big deal. I'll go celebrate you and your wife and stuff. And he's like, oh, okay. I want you in the wedding. Great. So when it's over and we go to the table for food and stuff, like I'm guessing like his wife's side of the family made all this stuff, and I believe they're Puerto Rican, so I don't even know what they are food wise, like on this table, but they look so good. So I'm like trying this one, and I'm like, no offense, brother. I was like, this is the best part of my day. This food is so good. I was like, I understand the craft table now for the actors when they say that because it's the same thing for this wedding. Was the best part of my
It
day.
is. It's food is love, but I there's also a saying that a well-fed crew is a happy crew, right? So that's what you want. And the other thing is that they want the actors to focus on their job. So if they're, if they're hungry, this just makes logical sense. You don't do your job, right? So
For sure.
Right.
Also, our
Especially if
producer,
they're picking up tummy growls on the mic, it's doesn't
our
read well.
producer Hayden also just told me that Corrine actually is still around,
Is she?
but,
Oh, good.
but she is retired. Her last role was a voiceover role for the video game Watch Dogs Legion in 2020.
Very cool. Very
So
cool.
she's still around.
I also found out Mark DeCostas,
Yeah.
if I said that correctly. I've seen him in so much stuff and didn't even realize he was in The Crow. But he's a very funny actor in the stuff I've seen him in, though. So maybe that was more of a far stretch, I guess. But yeah, it didn't really click. That I was like, oh, you were The Crow. That's interesting.
It was very moody. He was very moody, very romantic kind of character. But but he does his you look at the general that he plays in what was it? I just mentioned the show earlier, and there's humor in it, right? So
my next question is there's a few scenes in your screen time where you have to act alongside for one thing, a giant dog, which is not possible in real life. And also, the monster blood itself is growing so enormously huge. And the way that she's defeated is that she gets a little bit on her shoe and it sucks her in. Now, of course, back in the 90s, it most likely was a lot of, acting alongside green screen, or just kind of imagining something.
The giant dog. Can you see?
I was going to say, giant dogs are real.
They are real. Are they? But are they the size of like Clifford? I don't think so.
Is that a Great Dane also?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have a
Yeah.
Bernedoodle at my feet. So
My mom and stepdad have a great day, and I love that dog to death. They're so good dogs.
oh my God.
But
Sorry,
Yeah,
getting
sorry,
off the rails here, but
no,
I love
no.
dogs.
My question was like, what was it like having to kind of like act alongside with those effects not put in until post production? So like
Yeah.
you're trying to pretend that there's a giant dog coming through the door.
Yeah, so you know what the dog, so we knew what the dog looked like, and it's all imagination. I mean, you look at all of the like Marvel stuff now; it's all green screen, right?
Hmm.
So it's imagination, and again, like depending on what the director wanted, and he wanted, he gave me license to play. It was not like
It was kind of like trying to bargain with it and then like recoiling but still like defensive again like a cat.
Yeah. So
I was gonna
I
say
mean,
I enjoy the more cat approach than a person approach, given the circumstances that were in the episode. It
Exactly.
made way more sense.
there you go. Yeah, I again, it's you're using your imagination and you're just having fun with it and hoping that it translates. And one of the things that does happen is if you feel self-conscious about something, it comes across as self-conscious and unbelievable. So even if the circumstances are so fantastical, if as an actor sometimes you just have to throw yourself into it, and just hope for the best. So
Exactly.
Well, thankfully you didn't go like full method acting on the cat part. I don't think you would have came back from it. They tell you not to
It
go full
wasn't
method actor on
it
stuff.
wasn't like the movie
You
of
know,
Cats. Let's just be thankful it
yeah,
wasn't like
no,
that.
she's not at the craft table getting the saucer of milk
meow
and
mix.
stuff. Just
Yeah, or the tuna,
meow
or the
mix, yeah.
can of tuna, or something like
Yeah.
that. It's funny because I'm thinking about Cry the Cat now, just like that. There's a whole scene where
Yeah,
they
that was
just
another
like.
Goosebumps episode that was an interesting episode too.
Well, it's funny because
Um,
that episode has an actor who starts eating eating fish out of a can like a cat, and they're like,
I mean, people do that with
that's
salt
cat
sardines,
food,
but
right?
that's it.
Yeah.
Uh, um, my next question is there anything that you wish personally that they could have done with the character of Sarabeth? You feel like there is like some directions maybe they could go with that character?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Was that one of your audience people? Or was this, that's a really, really interesting question. No, because I trusted Tim. Again, I've worked with Tim on a number of things. And again, like there's a flavor to the show. There's a lightheartedness, there's a charm factor to it. There's all of those things. I think that had I been directed to be more menacing, or that wasn't the feel. So I think that he did a really fine job of giving me parameters, but not taking her too down too dark. I'm not playing one of the Mackers witches from I'm not allowed to say the name of the play, the Shakespeare play, but like it's not one of those kind of. She had some sex appeal, right? She's a cat, so y- you know. Okay, I'll wait for the next.
No, it's okay. But that's always. But it is an interesting question because sometimes there's some actors who are like, I want to put some of my own input into this character. So like sometimes there's stories of actors who go to the director and be like, hey, I want to do this. I want like, can we add a scene of this? And sometimes they go that way. So sometimes it's interesting when an actor sort of takes it upon themselves to grow their character a little more, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so you hope so. I mean, you want the character to come off of the page. You've been hired because of what you brought to the audition, and you are expected. Like you're not just coming in to say the lines. I mean, very often that's what you end up doing. But this character was very. And we're talking about a specific genre, but regardless of the genre, you're expected to bring, your creativity and your ideas to the table. Now, directors are not going to, we just don't have the time to, you're not going to have the ability to do another scene because I want to do a scene. Wouldn't that be nice? But that's, things are so efficient at this point. And if you've got a really great director, if you've been hired because you've brought something to the table that they want at the table, and really good directors are light-handed. Like they don't go in and interfere. If they're going in and interfering, for me, it's like, oh, I'm off base. I'm doing something wrong, or I'm not trusting the process, right? So it's an interesting it's an interesting collaboration. The director is the captain of the ship. He's pointing the ship in a direction, and we've all been hired for these different jobs to do because we are proficient in those jobs. We brought something masterful to that position.
Absolutely. My next question is a little more.
So I'll have to have Hayden interject a little like cat purr for that little moment we had earlier where we're talking about that. Just throw that in there for us.
That's so funny because
come on, Hayden, throw it in. I was
just about to say that my next question was, are you a cat person?
Well, it's funny because I have two cats. I was always a dog person. I've always had dogs. I was allergic to cats. I had a cat show up, a kitten, well, sort of an adolescent cat show up, and she was feral. And I started to feed her because we're in the northern hemisphere and things get pretty cold. Mm-hmm. And just kind of that's what I do is I feed the strays that come into my life. So anyway, she and she ended up becoming part of the family. And I didn't get her fixed in time, and she got pregnant and gave birth to one kitten, a black cat. And so I have my own Sarabeth. Yep. And
the irony of all this. Allergic to cats and give birth to a black cat. So the whole irony of the story.
They sleep with me, and I'm like, okay, now I understand why I can't breathe in the morning. But I love them. I'm so happy that I have the cats and the dogs. So
yeah. Did you ever have any interaction with the actual cat on set?
I do remember, so they have animal wranglers, and I do remember the cat being on set. It's not encouraged most of the time for the actors to, engage with the animals until you're actually working with them, mm-hmm. because they're working. But she was a beautiful, beautiful cat. Mm-hmm. And the necklace.
Yeah. I love the shot. I think it's right before she transforms, where the cat is sitting on like the banister of the stairs, and it's like sprawled out, so like it looks like really chunky. It's just sitting there, and then it jumps down. I don't know. I always found that funny. My next question is a little more general. But Goosebumps is a horror property. Are you a fan of horror movies, shows by any means?
It's funny because I've been asked that before. It's not a genre that I search out. I'm more, I loved Gary Oldman's Dracula. Love Gary Oldman's Dracula. I love the original.
I agree. Easily the best Dracula film, I think. Going to vampire films, it probably still is number one, but I love Interview with the Vampire as well, so that's up there. But as Dracula goes, yeah,
he's just
they nailed it.
Yeah. And I love the black and white, the 30s, Boris Karloff and that Frankenstein is so heartbreaking. So for me, when we talk about how horror intersects other genres, you had asked, are there genres that I particularly enjoyed working in? For me, his Frankenstein is so quintessential. It's not his fault. Like it's and this innocence, this childlike innocence that he brought to the character, to the role. For me, what stands out, I don't know whether your audience members, you have to go back and watch it, but there's a scene where there's a blind violinist and a child, and he comes into the scene, Boris Karloff as the monster. It's just this such a beautiful scene, and then the next thing you know, he gets frustrated and he takes the child and he drowns her, basically. So it's like this turn of events. It's like did this just actually happen? It's so patriotic. It's quite beautiful,
and it's so interesting too, because I've seen basically all of the Universal Frankenstein films, because there was multiple. And I think the first Frankenstein's really good, but I actually think Bride of Frankenstein is even better. It's one of those situations where the sequel actually outdoes the original. And when it comes to the monster in that film, it's even more so, because there's the whole setup where the monster is like staying with this blind man, and obviously the blind man can't see what he looks like, but it doesn't matter. He takes him in and he like teaches him to speak. He teaches him to eat and to drink. And like you can tell the monster like really, really enjoys like being around him. Like he starts to like laugh and smile. There's a whole scene where he's like being taught how to smoke, and he's just like, good.
That's right.
And it's so tragic. And even like when the bride is made, there's a whole scene where he's like he's like trying to like hold her hand, and she's just like like looking at it, and she gets like frightened, and he's even before he's like he goes from like smiling like really happy, and then he's just like, no, please, like don't get scared, and she does, and then he's just like broken. And that movie ends with him like destroying the castle. He sacrifices himself, and he like there's a shot where he just has like a single tear. It's
I think for me, like these characters, these monster characters that are so iconic. I'll give you. I'm trying to think of the actor's name who played Sandman in the. I mean, that's not a horror film, but all of
Spider-Man?
these in the Spider-Man series, right? Like all of these, Quasimodo from the Hunchback of Notre Dame, all of these great. And you don't see female characters. I would love to see a great female character, this sort of tragic figure. Maybe the character from Shrek potentially could be put in that category, but these underdogs that are so misunderstood. Like for me, those are the elements that make a great, it's not a, horror film per se, but those are the things that really create tension and empathy towards the antagonist.
I'm glad you brought up Spider-Man. That was Spider-Man 3, that it was Thomas Hayden Church. He did Sandman. And that was just such a great performance, because and I think this even translates to just the character in general and the source material, the comics and TV shows, that Sandman is just kind of like, he's just kind of your run-of-the-mill like bank robber, but he's not like a big super villain by heart. Like he doesn't, when the chips are down, he will like do the right thing. And in that movie, I mean, there's the whole scene where he's like first emerging as Sandman, and there's no words. It's just music and visuals, and he just has the locket of his daughter. And that's his whole reason for doing everything. But even by the end, he's just like, I didn't want any of this to happen. Like I was just want to see my daughter. It's always great to just see those tragic villain antagonist characters who you sympathize with deeply, even though they may do bad things.
You said Sandman. My first thought, I thought you guys were talking about the Netflix, the Sandman series. Which I love that. I hate that they only did the 2 seasons, but the whole controversy around Neil Gaiman, I guess, is why they quit doing that show. But it's too bad, because the stories were so good, the acting was so good. So I thought you were talking about that, because that had like a kind of like a monster character who had actually kind of a tragic ending to this whole thing. So I was like, oh yeah, that's Sandman. Oh, I can't wait to talk about that. And it's like, oh, Spider-Man, Sandman. I was like, I haven't seen that.
They're both good.
Off.
They're both good.
No, they're great. Yeah, no, I love Thomas Hayden Church. I mean, obviously, he's a great actor. I mean,
so funny because I mostly associate that character
easily one of my
with,
most favorite movies.
I mostly associate Thomas Hayden Church with comedy, so it's so funny that like he can. I mean, not that he can't. Not that I don't think that he can't, but it's so weird to see an actor mostly associated with comedies pull off such an emotional drama like that. That's what I'm basically getting at.
Well, like I mentioned, like Tombstone's one of my favorite movies, and he's in that. Now he doesn't have like a gigantic role, mind you, because there's just so many incredible actors in that film. Like, how can you spotlight every single one of them all the time? But he is in it, and he doesn't have like a comedic role. So he's multiversal, I guess, in that sense. But I do like to see actors stretch their legs a lot, and that's kind of the neat thing, I guess, about TV. And you said you didn't really get to pick your roles either, per se. Like, you didn't reach out specifically for one specific genre, so it's interesting to hear, like, we had Judah Katz on here before, and I'm not sure.
I love Jude. Yeah. I love Jude.
Like, he's so funny. Like, he cracks us up. We had him and Becky both, Becky Lantos, on the same time, because they both played in Stay Out of the Basement together. So we had the father-daughter duo back together for the first time since then, and he's hysterical. Like, you wouldn't think, like, watching his performance as the dad in the monster, also in that episode, like, he would be so funny. But that's the great thing about it's like, it's acting, so it's like you can stretch those legs a bit doing other stuff. Jim Carrey's done it. Like, a lot of people didn't think he could do anything serious, but like, if you ever watch the movie Number 23, incredible performance, and it's way outside his wheelhouse. It's definitely not comedy, but he performed that so well. So with that said, what would you say is your favorite role that you've had to stretch on doing before?
So I was hired to do a series called 5 Days at Memorial. It aired on Apple TV. It was about Katrina and the Memorial Hospital and what had happened as a result of what happened there. It was very tragic. I played a private nurse. It was a massive cast. John Ridley directed the episodes that I was in. Carlton Cuse was one of the executive producers. I had worked for him on Lock and Key. And I had a scene where I'm walking through the hospital ward, and everything has broken down, and so how it was shot is it was edited with me walking through and seeing how everything was, like, people were dying. It was based on a true story. The book won a Pulitzer Prize. But how it was initially shot was I was sitting on a chair with the woman who I was nursing, an older woman, and I'm calling her son to say, you've got to come and get her. Otherwise, she's going to die. And it was an incredibly emotional monologue, essentially. And I'm laughing as I say that. And it was a push-in with a camera on a dolly. And every time the camera pushed in, the dolly squeaked. Unlike the most emotional monologue that I've ever had to ever had to do. John, the director, the poor cameraman, I can't remember his name. He was just the sweetest guy. He was mortified. And John Ridley, who's the director, and he won an Oscar for 12 Years a Slave, a remarkable person, and probably one of my favorite directors, is on the floor next to me with the tiny monitor, like, watching this intense scene. And it was, now we cut. We got to do it again. I'm so sorry, Joy. We've got to do it again. But I love these meaty things. Like I think probably the most challenging roles are procedurals where it's like lawyer speak. The emotional stuff I love. Like the comedy I love. I don't get to do a lot of like I want to go slapstick. They want me as the straight person. But I think the most challenging are like playing a lawyer. Like it's just like dialogue, 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 dialogue. I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm saying stuff, and it's just like get it out.
Very recently, I've been on a huge like binge watch of Law and Order, and like that's basically all that is just like court proceedings and lawyer talk and all that stuff. And I'm like, wow, like all the all the lines that you have to probably like all the lines that you have to like memorize to make it sound natural and make it seem realistic just blows me away.
I used to audition. I would get auditions for, I'm sure you know the series Suits. I never got hired because I could never get the damn lines out. And I was like, yeah, this is just, I'm not going to ever get hired for this show. But yeah, it's that, I think for me, that's the most challenging. So.
Nice. When it comes to your portrayal of Sarabeth, there hasn't been many appearances of the character because she's mostly attached to the first Monster Blood. There's been sequels, but she hasn't returned. So basically, the big main performance attached to this character is yours from this episode. However, well, firstly, how do you feel about the fact that, you've basically become synonymous with your performance of that character?
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. Like it's really, I mean, I have to be, you hope that your work touches people. Who to thunk that, this campy, character. I've got to show you. I had, let me see if I can find it. On Instagram, there was an artist who, his name is Adam Genesis.
Yeah, Adam Genesis art. Yep.
So I don't know whether you can see this.
Yep.
But he did, like, I was like, really? Like, that is so, like, I was so flattered. I thought it was so cool. I mean, I guess, like, the important thing for me is that, it touched, like, people thought it was a cool role, right? So.
And Adam is one of our, like, friends, and it's, he's been doing artwork for us since basically the beginning. And so like when we tell him somebody's coming on, he gets inspired to do some artwork. And when he did that, I was like, awesome. I was like, that is so cool, dude. I was like, that's one of your best. And yeah, when I think you actually commented on his post, maybe, can't remember, but he messaged me talking to me about that. He's like, dude, that's so cool. Can't believe she like commented on it. It's like, yeah, that's awesome. I was like, what? I was like, if I saw it, if you did, because you have done us before, I was like, you're kind of taken aback a little bit.
Well, it's incredibly flattering, I think, and again, I'm so blown away that like 3 minutes has made this, kind of funky impact on, on pop culture. So
for sure. And cool. While there hasn't been another on-screen performance, and one thing I will say too, it's like sometimes it's kind of cool when you're the only one, because like, for example, there's been multiple actors who have done Slappy. Like Slappy has so many different actors, so you have people like fighting about, who's the best one, who did the best performance. But when you're the only one who's done it, it's like there's no other competition. It's just me. I'm synonymous with the role.
Queen of that character.
Exactly. And I will say, while Sarabeth has not made an on-screen appearance since then, there is a panel from this Goosebumps comic, and that is undeniable.
Joker is so dated. Oh my god! And I'm hideous in this. Oh my god!
It's one of the few modern appearances of this character, and that's undeniably a drawing of your look of the character from that episode. So
Crap.
I felt like
Sorry.
I had to show this off really quick.
What is this from?
It's from a comic series called Goosebumps Horrors of the Witch House. It came out just a few years ago, I think. It's pretty recent, but it was a comic that was about this
I have to
this
take a
modern
photo.
age witch, and apparently her grandmother was Sarabeth.
Oh my God, that's a riot. That is a riot. And I'm going to say to whoever created the comic that the choker may have been dated, but it's so on point right now. Just
True.
say
It's true. Well, I haven't seen it yet because it's not out yet. It comes out early next month, actually. But Maddie Gonzalez has been doing the graphic novels for the comics currently, and she did Haunted Mask first, and it was a pretty relatively faithful adaptation from the book and the show. And what's going to be interesting is she is doing Monster Blood next, and that releases next month.
Less than a month, actually.
Good. You gotta send me that link.
She's also coming to Curse City Con with us, so we'll get to talk to her about that. But we're hoping to have her back on to talk about Monster Blood. But now I kind of want to know, did she put a little TV Sarabeth in there for us to look out for?
Had to have been. There was some TV Haunted Mask stuff
I'll
in
have to
there
give you
too. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's little things that she did in that first one. So now I'm kind of curious seeing that comic panel, what comes in this new adaptation.
Yeah, totally.
but I will say that
I will have to let you know if you're in there though. I'll have to message her and find out.
the perception
Yeah,
of this
please do.
character has grown to become your performance among the Goosebumps fan community. So, by all means, it definitely you've definitely become synonymous with that role.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. So
One last question before we end off the evening is that we already talked about how your performance has become very well known from this episode. There's many adults now who were kids when this episode came out, and they really enjoy it. They really love it. They go back to it. Do you have anything for those fans who have become fans of this episode and the character?
well, I think just like an appreciation and gratitude that, that I am part of sort of a television history that meant so much to, like, for me it was Scooby-Doo, right? Like that's right. So that's what I hang on to, and so it's an honor to be a part of something that means something, in a positive way that people look back, or hopefully look back with with a certain amount of happiness, or that was entertaining, and I'm just appreciative that there's a relevance to this that I was really not aware of, and that I was a part of somebody's childhood, and hopefully in a positive way. So yeah, so I'm grateful. I'm grateful that you've invited me to your show, that I've had a chance to hang out with you guys and talk, and it was just an absolute pleasure for me. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I mean, we love
Yeah.
getting to talk about the show, and just like you said, it was a big impact on our childhoods, and we look back on it with such with that appreciation because it did shape the people who we are, and we get to do this show now because of our enjoyment of Goosebumps. So we're very happy to have had the chance to talk with you about this episode, and it was our pleasure all around.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah, and you are
much.
welcome back anytime.
Yep,
Oh,
absolutely. Ever want to
that'd
talk
be
about?
fun. Yeah.
Hey, when you get to read that book, let us know, and you can give your thoughts to it. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah. I would love it. I know this, we talked about this earlier. It helps my algorithm. So if those lovely people out there, my content on Instagram may be absolutely ridiculous, and it may be a lot about the new dog. So, but if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Tanner Full of Joy. I have a Facebook page, but I'm really lazy about it.
Yeah.
So I don't even know
Same.
even know what's there. Um, I was on Twitter. That should tell you something right now that I'm still using the term Twitter. But I've also gone over to Blue Sky. And yeah, again, it's Tanner Full of Joy. And I just thank you so much for just such a lovely evening. It's
Absolutely. And I will, for all you guys at home, as always, I will leave links to Joy's social medias in the description below. Go follow her on her social media, show her some support, really does deserve it. And Joy, just thank you so much once again for hopping on and talking some Goosebumps with us. We had an amazing time.
It's my pleasure. And
Yeah,
I engage.
Why?
Like I'm not, I will write back. So.
Yep, absolutely. We'd be happy to have you back on another time, seriously, by all means. So
Right.
thank you very much. We appreciate it. And
Maybe if we can get some of the other actors from the episode, we like to do reunion episodes.
oh,
Oh,
definitely.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we can get in touch with anybody else, we'll be happy to do that too.
We'll keep
So
it.
you let me know, and I can see if I can help you get in touch with certainly with Sarah because of my connection with her sister Jennifer. And I'm sure, like, if you reached out to Corrine, she may be interested. And again, I don't know about Kyle. I'd love to see what, I haven't seen him since he was, a squirt. I'm sorry about that, Kyle.
Yeah, definitely. No, I
Probably didn't help you out there trying to get him on.
nah, no, you're fine.
Everyone's they're adults now, but yeah. And Jude, again, and I also would love Lori Alter did part 2. I really want to give a shout out to Lori. She's a friend of mine. She's amazing. And I know that she would she'd be a very entertaining guest and a very gracious guest as well. So
Definitely. We love the episode of the part 2 of Monster Blood also. So any excuse to talk about that
ridiculous.
one, I feel is going to be great. So we'll definitely have to look into
Yeah, it's
that.
funny. Like we've talked about on here, we don't like the books all that much. The first one was probably the best one, but that doesn't say a lot because, like we said, it's kind of convoluted.
Right.
But the episodes we actually do like. So it's what they did change and what did happen was, at least it's a good version of Monster Blood. So we're hoping Maddie does a really good job with her upcoming one too, since that's going to be a relatively new adaptation, kind of, unless she really sticks to one of the books, which I don't know which one she'd do. There's like 20,000 Monster Blood books at this point.
Oh
Stein
my
loves his
gosh.
Monster Blood. Let me just say that. He loves his
I
Monster
have
Blood.
no idea. So I have a question for both of you.
Mhm.
Well, for all of you, what is your, I see you have like amazing collections. I know that Bjorn's not here, sadly. I wish that I had the chance to meet Bjorn, but, and that he has quite an outstanding collection.
Mhm.
What is your favorite collectible that you have from the show?
Ooh, from the show.
Like that, and it could be from any episode. Like,
I would say
Well,
like
actually,
after-
like for me, like I have a case back here, which you can kind of see the lighting a
Yeah.
little bit, but those are replicas of the mask and the Carly Beth head from the Haunted Mask. And there's two little, I guess you can call them little trophies. I don't really know. But there actually were cast gifts at the end of production of that episode that were made. And we had Matt DeWild on here, who was one of the like prop makers for the first half of the first season, maybe. And he still had the mold and was able to cast one for me and sign it at the bottom, which is really cool. And
that is very cool.
that one and probably actual pieces of the Haunted Mask. They're crumbling. So the person who used to own it sent me some, and I've got them in a little like
Petri dish.
I guess
The vial that you wear
I guess you
around
could
the
say,
neck.
I guess it's a petri dish back there. That's probably mine too. Funny enough, that Haunted Mask just went to auction recently and sold for like $31,500, like in its condition, which was crazy.
Well, I don't have anything as cool as that, but
So
I
that
do
shows
have,
you Goosebumps is love. So
I do have a signed VHS of the Haunted Mask by R.L. Stein. I don't have anything as cool as trophies or pieces of the mask, but This is probably, in terms of the show, my prized possession right there.
Very awesome.
Absolutely.
Oh, can I do a real quick plug for the series that I just wrapped up?
Indeed.
So I want to do a really quick plug for a series that I just finished. I was in season 2 and 3. It's on SYFY and Hulu. It's called Surrealestate. Tim Rosen and Sarah Levy, Alana, I'm going to totally mispronounce Alana's last name, but Maurice Dean Wint, really amazing cast. George Olson is the showrunner. It's a beautiful series. It's a smart series. It's not Goosebumps, but it is in that genre, and I hope that you lovely people will give it a look-see. So
absolutely, I'll leave a link to whatever I can find regarding the show. Go check it out, and of course, go follow Joy over on her social medias. Just show her the support. She's awesome. We're glad to have her tonight. Yeah. So thank you once again. We appreciate it, and of course, that is going to do it for tonight's episode of the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. As always, make sure you go follow Nick and Bjorn at Goosebumps Aussie Fan and Sean respectively, or Bjorn and Nick at Goosebumps Aussie Fan Sean respectively. If you liked today's episode, make sure to like and comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on our audio platforms and social medias. All those links are in the description below, so check them out. We'll have another episode for you next week, but until then, this has been the Goosebumps Crew Podcast, and from all of us here, I want to wish you all, as always, to take care, stay safe, and have a very scary day.